Northern California, the late 1960s, a time of cultural revolution and social change, a time of peace and love, shattered by fear. The era of free spirits and flower power was suddenly overshadowed by a sinister presence. A killer stalked the night, his presence a dark cloud over the community. He became known as the Zodiac, his name a whisper that sent chills down spines, his crimes a horrifying reality that gripped the public. The Zodiac Killer preyed on young couples, their lives brutally taken. Panic spread like wildfire, consuming the hearts of many. The unknown assailant remained elusive, always one step ahead. The Zodiac Killer's reign of terror began in December 1968. A date forever etched in infamy. A young couple, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, were shot and killed in their car. Their dreams and futures abruptly ended. This marked the beginning of a nightmare that would haunt Northern California for years. The killer's motives remained shrouded in darkness, his identity a mystery. The only clue, a cryptic message, a puzzle that taunted the authorities. It was sent to a local newspaper, a challenge to the public and the police. The message, a chilling promise of more violence, a declaration of his twisted game. The Zodiac Killer craved notoriety. He sought the spotlight, reveling in the chaos he created. He reveled in the fear he instilled. The community, gripped by paranoia, he sent letters to newspapers, each one a piece of his dark puzzle, each letter a twisted puzzle. He taunted the police. He threatened further violence. His crimes continued, unabated, each attack more brazen than the last. The terror escalating. The Zodiac's reign of terror cast a long shadow, a shadow that loomed over the entire region. It left an indelible mark on Northern California, a scar that would never fully heal. This is the story of the Zodiac Killer, a tale of fear, mystery, and unresolved questions, a tale of unsolved murders, lives cut short and families left in anguish, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface, a darkness that, to this day, remains unexplained.
The late 1960s. A time of great change, a time of great turmoil. The Vietnam War raged, social unrest gripped the nation. Amidst this backdrop of uncertainty, a killer emerged. The Zodiac Killer's crimes tapped into the anxieties of the era. The Vietnam War had created a sense of fear and vulnerability. The anti-war movement and the civil rights movement had exposed deep divisions within American society. The Zodiac Killer exploited these fears. He became a symbol of the chaos and darkness that seemed to pervade the nation. Northern California, in particular, was a hotbed of social and political change. The counterculture movement was in full swing. The Summer of Love had attracted young people from all over the country. The Zodiac Killer's crimes shattered the illusion of peace and love. He brought the darkness to their doorstep. The late 1960s were a time of great hope and great despair. The Zodiac Killer's crimes embodied the dark side of this era. His crimes remain unsolved, a chilling reminder of the evil that can lurk in the shadows.
The Zodiac Killer's victims were young, vibrant individuals. They were full of life, with dreams and aspirations. Their futures, tragically cut short by a senseless act of violence. Their names are forever etched in the annals of criminal history. David Faraday, Betty Lou Jensen, Darlene Ferrin, Cecilia Shepard, Paul Michael Magot. Each name tells a story of a life interrupted. These are the confirmed victims of the Zodiac Killer, a shadowy figure who terrorized communities. David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen were high school sweethearts, full of hope and promise. Their lives were cut short on their first date. A night meant for joy turned into a nightmare. They were shot to death in their car, a brutal end to young love. Their murder sent shockwaves through the community, shattering the sense of safety. It marked the beginning of the Zodiac's reign of terror, a period of fear and uncertainty. Darlene Ferrin and Cecilia Shepard were attacked in a parked car. Farron was killed instantly, a sudden and violent end. Shepard fought for her life but died in the hospital 2 days later, her struggle ending in tragedy. Their murder, in broad daylight, heightened the sense of fear, proving that no one was safe. It proved that the Zodiac was capable of striking anywhere, anytime, leaving the public in constant fear. Paul Michael Mageau was shot multiple times while on a date with his girlfriend, Cecilia Shepard. Mageau survived the attack, a rare glimmer of hope. He provided police with a description of the killer, a crucial piece of the puzzle. His testimony remains crucial to the investigation, a beacon in the dark. The Zodiac's victims were more than just names on a police report. They were real people with families, dreams, and futures. Their lives were cut short by a senseless act of violence, leaving a void that can never be filled. Their deaths left a void in the lives of those who loved them, a scar that will never fully heal.
Cryptic messages and chilling ciphers. The Zodiac's twisted game. The Zodiac Killer craved notoriety. He wanted the world to know his name. He communicated with the public through letters. These letters were sent to newspapers. They were filled with cryptic messages and chilling ciphers. The letters were often rambling and incoherent. They were filled with misspellings and grammatical errors. Yet, within these rambling messages, there were glimpses of a disturbed mind. The Zodiac Killer boasted about his crimes. He taunted the police. He threatened to kill again. The ciphers were particularly chilling. They were complex codes. The Zodiac Killer claimed that they contained his true identity. Some of the ciphers were solved. Others remain unbroken to this day. They are a tantalizing clue, a window into the mind of a killer. The letters and ciphers served a dual purpose for the Zodiac Killer. They were a way to taunt the police and keep his name in the headlines. They were also a way for him to control the narrative. He wanted to be remembered on his own terms.
The elusive phantom law enforcement's struggle for answers. The Zodiac Killer's crimes sent shockwaves through law enforcement. Police were under immense pressure to catch the killer. They followed every lead. They interviewed countless witnesses. Despite their best efforts, the Zodiac Killer remained elusive. The Zodiac Killer was cunning. He was careful. He left very little physical evidence at the crime scenes. This made it extremely difficult for investigators to track him down. The letters and ciphers he sent to the newspapers only added to the mystery. They provided few concrete clues about his identity. The investigation was further hampered by communication problems between different law enforcement agencies. Information was not always shared in a timely manner. This led to missed opportunities and frustration among investigators. The lack of coordination allowed the Zodiac Killer to stay one step ahead of the police. Despite the challenges, law enforcement never gave up on the case. They pursued every lead. They explored every theory. They hoped to bring the Zodiac Killer to justice.
Shadows of doubt suspects and dead ends in the Zodiac case. Over the years, numerous individuals have been investigated as potential suspects in the Zodiac Killer case. Some of these individuals were ruled out based on lack of evidence. Others remain persons of interest to this day. The most famous suspect is Arthur Lee Allen. Arthur Lee Allen was a convicted child molester. He came to the attention of law enforcement early in the investigation. He matched the description of the killer given by one of the surviving victims. However, there was not enough evidence to charge him. Allen died in 1992. He was never definitively linked to the Zodiac Killer crimes. Another person of interest is Ross Sullivan. Sullivan worked at the library where one of the Zodiac's victims worked. He resembled police sketches of the killer. However, like Allen, there was not enough evidence to connect him to the crimes. The lack of concrete evidence against any one suspect has fueled endless speculation and conspiracy theories. The identity of the Zodiac Killer remains one of the most enduring mysteries in criminal history. The enigma of motive, unraveling the killer's psyche. The Zodiac Killer's motive remains one of the most perplexing aspects of the case. Why did he kill? What drove him to commit these horrific acts? These questions have haunted investigators and the public alike for decades. What drove him to commit these horrific acts? Was it a deep-seated psychological issue or something more sinister? The letters and ciphers he sent to the newspapers offer some clues. They are filled with cryptic messages and taunts challenging the authorities to catch him. They paint a picture of a deeply disturbed individual, someone who thrived on the chaos and fear he created. In his letters, the Zodiac Killer expressed a hatred for humanity. His words were filled with venom and contempt. He claimed to be collecting slaves for the afterlife. This bizarre and chilling statement adds another layer of mystery to his already enigmatic persona. He seemed to derive pleasure from the terror he inflicted. The fear in the eyes of the public was his reward. His writings suggest a desire for power and control. He wanted to manipulate and dominate those around him. He wanted to feel superior to others. This need for superiority drove many of his actions. He wanted to be feared. The more fear he instilled, the more powerful he felt. Some experts believe that the Zodiac Killer may have suffered from a personality disorder. This could explain his erratic behavior and lack of empathy. This could explain his need for attention. He craved the spotlight and the infamy that came with his crimes. It could also explain his lack of empathy for his victims. To him, they were merely pawns in his twisted game. Others speculate that he may have been driven by a desire for notoriety. He wanted to be more than just a faceless killer. He wanted to make a name for himself, to be remembered long after his crimes were committed. He wanted to be remembered, his name etched in the annals of criminal history. Whatever his motives, there is no doubt that the Zodiac Killer was a deeply disturbed individual. His actions were not those of a sane mind. His crimes were not simply acts of violence. They were meticulously planned and executed to maximize fear. They were calculated attempts to instill fear and terror. His legacy is one of horror and mystery, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk within the human psyche. As our investigation draws to a close, we are reminded that the Zodiac Killer remains one of the most enigmatic figures in criminal history. His identity may still be unknown, but his impact on our collective consciousness is undeniable. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the dark heart of the Zodiac Killer case. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.